Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys a little bit about why when we're giving advice to people that a lot of us need to remember that things that work for us or things that work for a lot of serious lifters that we think of as normal fat loss strategies are absolutely not going to work for the general population. So let me put on my +5 hat of weaponsmithing, work on skilled at my crafting a little bit, and let's talk about this. And a lot of it simply comes down to the fact that those of us who have been lifting weights for many, many years, our maintenance calories and our energy turnover is so ridiculously astronomically high compared to the average obese person that our wiggle room on things is different. Because at the end of the day, everyone needs to understand fat loss is purely about calories in, calories out. That is what it is about. That is what determines your changes in scale weight. It is, and there is no credible evidence that would suggest otherwise. And the data showing it and supporting it is overwhelming at this point. But you have to factor in activity level and metabolic rate and things. And it's kind of funny because a lot of us who lift, our maintenance calories are really high. Like me, for example, I've been losing weight. I've cut 40 pounds this last year. I don't eat 2,500 calories or anything low like that. I had phases in there where I was losing a pound a week on 3,500 calories a day while doing no cardio. No cardio, no conditioning work, and losing weight on 3,500 calories. Now, to the average person, you need to factor in how that's going to look to the average person. Most people can bulk on that. In other words, the majority, and even novice lifters, if you're on 3,500 calories, you're probably just going to get fat. Right? You're going to get fat on that. If you were to eat exactly what I ate day in and day out during that weight loss phase, what I was losing a pound a week on, for a lot of people, they would gain fat on that, eating the exact same food. So people need to understand that when it comes to meal plans and things like that, you've got to factor all of that in. And it matters. It matters a lot. Now, we could argue that everyone should be lifting, and that's true. But truth be told, as much as I would tell people lifting is a long-term strategy for changing energy turnover and improving all your health markers and everything else, everyone should be lifting. Everyone should be lifting heavy. For your health, if nothing else, because of all the scientific evidence we have there, right? But if someone needs to lose 50 pounds of body fat to be healthy or 80 pounds of body fat to be healthy, weightlifting is not going to be the primary strategy that's going to get them there, because are they really going to train for the next 5 years to have a maintenance of 3,500 or higher calories? I mean, that's what it's going to take. Even for men, women, never going to happen almost. But for men, you're looking at probably busting your ass under a heavy barbell for the next 5 years to get your energy turnover that high, to build enough muscle, enough strength, enough work capacity that you can do that. So are you going to stay morbidly obese for the next 5 years while you do that? No, it's not going to work. In the long term, it will. And the funny thing is, you'll get people who say things like, I know people who are like, oh, you're so lucky to have an energy turnover that high. And it's like, it has nothing to do with luck. What do you mean luck? That's years and years of my life spent under heavy iron. The amount of work that I put in over the years to be able to burn that much energy is astronomical. It actually would be less work to just lose weight, right? It's not really luck. It's years of lifting to get to that point. So it's nothing to do with that. It's not luck. It's the front end. The work was put in on the front end already for that. So what I would say is that you've got to keep that in mind when you're giving people advice, and particularly when it comes to things like flexible dieting. Like I was pointing out, for a lot of that fat loss, I was going out a lot. I was going out and eating a lot, and I would just fast through the day, eat a bunch of chicken and broccoli or whatever so that I would get my protein and veggies in, and then I would go out and eat burgers and tater tots and have beer with it or whatever. A lot of times there were a lot of days where I did that and I would still lose a pound that week because I would save myself 1,500 or 2,000 calories for dinner so that I could go out and have a Philly cheesesteak burger with tater tots and a big thing of Guinness with it, right? Or several glasses of wine. Realistically speaking, though, for anyone else, for someone who's not a lifter and who hasn't saved their calories, how many people out there who, any of you friends and family, you're giving advice to, or the general population, people who are just listening to a channel like this? Realistically, How many of them are going to be able to follow that strategy? They probably are. Now, a lot of my listeners are, because most of you guys and girls are squatting and deadlifting heavy, and you're building a solid strength base if you're taking my advice. But starting out, you weren't at that point, and if you started out overweight, there's no way you have 2,000 calories left to spare in the evening, and you've already got your vitamins and minerals in because you ate 150 grams of protein and a bunch of vegetables, and you still have 1,500 or 2,000 calories left. For a lot of you, you're going to need to go down to that number just to lose weight. Right? There's a lot of obese people out there starting out who 2,000 calories is their weight loss calories. They don't have 2,000 calories left for one meal in the evening. I mean, come on, that strategy's not going to work for them. And even if they did, that's the other problem we run into with the flexible dieting. Most people's calories are going to have to be way, way lower than serious lifters, but they still have the same vitamin and mineral needs. That's what people need to remember. You don't need more vitamin C. You don't need more vitamin K. You don't need more iron as a lifter. Even if you have a maintenance of 4,000 calories, you don't need more of these things than the average person does. So if you're losing weight on 3,200 calories instead of 2,000, you have 1,200 more wiggle room on calories to work with. It may not even be necessary to get your vitamins and minerals and all your micros in. Right? People with high energy turnovers from sports and lifting and conditioning work and muscle and all of these things, we have so much more wiggle room for free calories. Furthermore, we have more wiggle room sometimes for empty calories because it's not that difficult to get fairly full on 3,500 calories, no matter what you eat. Especially if you're eating protein and vegetables in there on top of it, 3,500 calories is a lot of food. Most of us could sit here and eat 2,000 calories of really high volume, healthy foods that we would think of as normal foods that people would diet on, and have 1,500 or 1,200 calories left to eat whatever we wanted, realistically. Not saying that's what you should do every day, but it's an option you often have. The average person trying to lose weight doesn't have 1,200 calories of wiggle room. Flexible dieting and a lot of these things really, and even the whole if it fits your macros thing, really only applies to people who are training really hard and who are serious and who built a muscle and a strength and a work capacity base. Normal people who have not been working out or training very long, normal people who can't squat their body weight for 10 or 12 or 15 reps on a barbell to depth, they're not going to have that sort of energy turnover. For those people, flexible dieting may not be a good option. People will say that who've been doing this successfully, and they start giving advice to people. They'll often say, oh, you can just, fit your macros here and everything will be fine. Throw in a few vegetables and you'll be fine. What you're going to have is someone who's going to be hungry. You give that strategy to someone who has a maintenance of 2,400 calories, who needs to lose body fat, you think that's really going to work? Think that's really going to work? Or are you going to have someone who's going to end up having vitamin and mineral deficiencies? Are you going to end up having someone who gets really hungry all the time because they didn't really have that much wiggle room? They don't have room for low satiety foods other than maybe a one-off treat. I'm going to say that a lot of these things that we can get away with using, those of us with really high energy turnovers, that's just not going to work for the people we're giving advice to, particularly ranked novices. And that's the majority of people out there who are trying to get fitness advice are novices. They are novices. They don't have years of training, hard training under their belts. They really don't. And accordingly, these things don't work that well for them. These are people who probably really do need to be on a structured bro type diet of some type. These are the people who probably do need to be eating chicken, broccoli, and brown rice for almost all their meals every day. These are the people who need to be eating nothing but Greek yogurt and plain oats. Right? These are the people who don't have any spare calories to dump a little bit of sugar on their stuff that they want. They don't have that. Furthermore, a lot of these foods are the foods that make them fat to begin with because it stimulates their appetite. They're not satiating. They're not filling. These are the sort of people you're going to say, yeah, you should probably just go ahead and eat nothing but a baked potato and a steak and some steamed broccoli for dinner, right? And track the calories on it. You need to find out how much is in there. I mean, these are most people, that's what we need to be telling them. That's how they're going to have to eat. They're going to have to eat really high satiety carbs. They're not going to have extra calories for the extra sauce. They're going to have to put low-calorie seasoning and sauces on everything. They don't have wiggle room. These aren't the people who can get away with throwing cheese on their potatoes. They're going to need to eat that potato plain with a little sea salt on it. These are the people who are going to need to throw in an extra serving of vegetables and all their meals oftentimes because they need the extra food volume just to feel full. These aren't the people who have the wiggle room to work in a slice of pizza or 300 calories of actual sauce on their on their chicken and rice, right? They don't have that. And that's stuff that a lot of times those of us who've been training for many years, or we know people who follow these strategies and they get just absolutely shredded to really low body fats, take for granted when you've been doing this for many years that oftentimes these strategies are not going to work. Your biggest struggle with most people who don't have the high energy turnover is going to be, can they maintain a caloric deficit while feeling reasonably full and satiated, while actually reaching all their vitamin and mineral and protein needs, right? That's difficult. That can be tricky. That can be really tricky for those people. It's a far more difficult balancing act. Now, I could argue someone like me with an insane appetite, the appetite end is still always a balancing act. I have to eat mostly bro foods, as we would think of them, just to feel full, because I also have an enormous appetite. I'm a bottomless pit. So even I have to incorporate that strategy, but at least I'm not forced to go, oh man, can I hit my magnesium needs? Can I reach my vitamin K needs today? No, those things aren't a problem because I can eat so much food. That's not really an issue ever. Vitamin and minerals are never an issue for someone with that sort of energy turnover, even if appetite is. But they are an issue for these people. And the last thing you want is someone who's trying to diet and lose weight, who's trying to start training, who's going to be struggling with recovery because they are relatively new to training, getting nutrient deficiencies. That's the very last thing you want. And when we start putting those people on either diets that allow for too much wiggle room on calories, that happens. Or when you put them on extremely restrictive diets that eliminate multiple food groups, you can run into the same problems also, can't you? Very, very quickly. So that's something that needs to be taken into account. That's stuff that we need to think about when we are giving people advice who are not serious lifters or athletes. And again, a lot of us who've been doing this for a long time, we do forget that sometimes when we're giving advice. And I do see people do that on their Facebook feeds and social media and stuff. They forget that stuff sometimes too. It's just something that we need to think about. All right, guys, well, that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I will talk to you guys next time.